Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Canadian Rocketship Companies. In this podcast, we profile Canadian startups who can accelerate your career. We get the founders to come on, tell us a bit about the history of the company, and why you should join them. I'm your host, Alex Norman, and this week I'm joined by an amazing Andrew D'Souza, co-founder and CEO of Clearco, a longtime friend of TechTO, and who we are super excited to have back. Now, before we get started, and I bring up Andrew, we are recording this podcast live. And you can get your questions in by putting comments on the media and the channel you're looking at. So if you're on LinkedIn or on YouTube, add a comment. I will see it and we'll bring the questions into the conversation. So now that you know that, let's get started and let's welcome Andrew to the stage.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Where are you today? You always seem to be traveling around the world.
Yeah, I'm in New York today. I'm in New York. We're doing an executive offsite. We've got a bunch of executives who haven't met each other, who we've hired in the past year, and so many of them are in the U.S. and so we're all meeting in New York.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your executive offsite, and I guess you had to hire a lot through the last year and a half when everything went remote. For people that don't know Clearco, give us a 30-second for people that don't know you, give us your 30-second background prior to founding Clearco.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer from the University of Waterloo, spent a couple of years at McKinsey, and then in 2010 moved out to Silicon Valley, met a guy named Chamath, who was head of growth at Facebook at the time and has gone on to do some other interesting things. But probably one of the most formative things for me has been moving to Silicon Valley in 2010 and seeing how the ecosystem worked and what was good about it, and all the benefits of venture capital, but all I think a lot of the unfairness, a lot of the inequality of for founders, for entrepreneurs, who my friends back in Canada at the time were struggling to raise capital, where my friends that graduated Stanford would just walk down the street or go to a party and it was easy. And that same thing sort of existed in every dimension. So when I moved back to Canada in 2013, a big part of my role was, I joined a company called Top Hat, and a big part of my role was to help them, raise capital. And I sort of did that a few times and realized that venture capital was never going to scale to meet the needs of the millions of entrepreneurs and founders out there that needed the right type of financing and support and opportunity. And so that was what led to the founding of Clearco.
And so when did you found Clearco?
So Michelle and I started Clearco in 2015, the fall of 2015. So it's coming up on 6 years now, and feels like maybe a lot longer, but it's certainly been a journey. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's been around for 6 years, but the idea was in your head for 5 years prior to that. So for people that don't know, give us the elevator pitch on what Clearco does.
Yeah, so we provide financing, and really we provide opportunity to entrepreneurs that many of them go to angel investors or VCs for. And so it starts with financing. We provide non-dilutive capital to entrepreneurs, to mostly e-commerce and software entrepreneurs, to fund their repeatable growth, sales, marketing, inventory, infrastructure. But we also provide advice and access to a network and a lot of the other things that you're looking for as a founder, in building your business. And so we do that programmatically. We use data science to evaluate businesses. We also use that same technology to make recommendations and provide that advice. And we funded about $2.4 billion now to 5,500 companies and entrepreneurs around the world.
So you have one of the biggest portfolios out there.
Probably, yeah. It's probably, we think of ourselves as probably the largest, at least by number, e-commerce investor in the world.
So I'd like to get back to that advice and the services you provide in a minute. But before that, you're 6 years in the journey. When did you feel like you had product market fit, and how do you know you had it?
Yeah, great question. We had moments. I think product market fit is this elusive concept where we felt like we had it. We had a couple of different iterations. We always had this vision around using financial services to empower entrepreneurs. We started the company really focusing on the gig economy. We partnered with Uber in the early days. We worked with the sharing economy and Airbnb. I think what we really found was in the e-commerce world, that was where there was this explosion of entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurs that the only limitation to their growth was access to capital and knowledge of what to do with that capital, right? They had products that they could sell to anybody, anywhere. They just needed to find those customers, and they needed to make sure that they had those products in stock. And those are the things that we could go solve. So it took us a few years. We really nailed this product probably in 2018. So it's coming up on 3 years that we really found that we had a customer base that was large and growing, and we were sort of creating a category in a market that was coming into our view. But we had a few brushes with product market fit on the journey there.
So I love that. And let's talk a bit about what you said. So like 2018, you get to, let's say, product market fit. And it seems like since then, Clearco's everywhere the last 3 years. At that time, was the like a marketing spend loan, right? Like, hey, you're advertising on Facebook or Twitter. We can provide financing for that. Is that correct? Was that the product that found product market fit?
Yeah, it was actually a fairly contentious board meeting. So coming into that, I'll tell you the story. So we were funding, most of our business was funding vacation rental businesses. So we would fund, an Airbnb host to open up a new property, and they would take $5,000 and they would outfit it, and they get the furniture and everything, and then they put it on Airbnb. And that was the majority of our business. And that was actually what our Series A investors invested on. And we had this sort of skunkworks project to fund marketing for e-commerce, because we sort of saw this emerging ecosystem of e-commerce businesses. And Michelle had just joined Dragon's Den, and was, all of these entrepreneurs were pitching, we're looking to raise money, and what they needed the money for was marketing and inventory. And so we're like, okay, we could fund this. We know how marketing works. But I remember coming out of a board meeting saying, look, we think there's something. We're coming into Black Friday, we're coming into Q4. We think there's something in this e-commerce thing. We're not sure how much headroom we've got to grow in the vacation rental business. And our board was very divided. Our new investors that had invested a few months ago were like, wait a minute, you just sold us on this business model. What do you mean you're going to, effectively pivot? And we're like, no, I mean, it's the same vision. It's just, it's just a different target market, and using the same infrastructure and technology. And, I think it was pretty divided, but Michelle and I sort of looked at each other and we're like, look, this is going to be the last Black Friday we get to try this for a while. And so let's give it a shot. And yeah, effectively it was, we will fund your online marketing spend. And instead of taking equity, so it's neither a loan nor is it an equity investment. It's a revenue share. So we don't take security in the business. We don't take a personal guarantee. We don't put sort of warrants and covenants on the business, but we take a revenue share, and we get, until we get our money back, and plus 6%. And so that's sort of the structure of the advance that we provide.
Yeah, and that product, like if you look back, seemed to go historically well. And like you said, it's you've been a Rocketship since then. But what's interesting to me is I feel like over the last, actually since like the beginning of 2020, you seem to be launching new products and services like every couple of weeks, or at least it feels that way. And you've alluded to providing services. So tell us a bit about how you decided what to launch. There's more lending products, and there's now like this, I guess, advice products. And how have you decided to do that? How have you how do you decide what the product roadmap is?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just talking to the founders in our portfolio and being like, okay, well, what do you need, right? And capital gets you so far, but at the end of the day, capital by itself, you can get from a lot of different places. There's different strings and terms associated with them, but capital by itself, gets you to a certain point. I think what most people look for, and when they look for an investor, this is really what you're looking for, is you're looking for experience. And you're in a lot of ways as a founder, you're looking for confidence that you're onto something, right? You're looking for like, I want to raise money so I can get the TechCrunch article, so I can send it to my mom so that she knows that I'm not a failure in life, right? That's actually what a lot of founders are looking for, is like some sort of validation that they're onto something, and then some advice on like, hey, I've got 10 things on my priority list, which should be number one, and so we started to look at this and say, look, we've got a ton of data. We're plugged into 30,000 businesses. We know what works for which category, which stage, in which geography, and what doesn't work. We know which agency is effective for which types of businesses. We know which piece of software. We know which advertising channels. We know what your gross margin should be. And now we can start to use that data to really help these founders make better decisions faster, and use that capital most effectively.
Interesting. And if you look now, you've had 3 years of very rapid growth. And if you look out 10 years, what does success look like? How will people describe Clearco?
Yeah, every time I try and talk about this, I honestly think it's less about describing Clearco and what Clearco looks like in 10 years, and it's more about if Clearco is achieves its mission or is on the path to that, what does the world look like, right? And what do people's careers look like? And do people is it much easier? Do we have a million entrepreneurs that would otherwise not have existed? And are they solving, problems that they're passionate about? And that could be, just building a business and controlling their own destiny. That could be solving, climate change or, major healthcare challenges and things that people are really passionate about. But does the makeup of entrepreneurship look very different than it does today because we exist? And do the types of problems that entrepreneurs can tackle change because they don't need to be able to, pitch a VC who's been able, the skill set of raising money from LPs is very different than the skill set of understanding the problems that humanity faces. And so, I think that's one of the challenges. There's a lot of great entrepreneurs out there who are qualified and passionate about solving real problems, and they're just what they're not qualified to do is pitch their business in a way that resonates with a venture capitalist,
or maybe their business doesn't fit into a traditional model. So
exactly,
I love it. Like, it sounds like what you're trying to do is enable more people to be entrepreneurs and providing access to capital and advice. That's a huge impact. So let's talk a bit about the company growth and why someone might want to join Clearco. So first, you went from how many people did you have in 2018?
We had 100 people in 2018, we probably had less than 50 people.
How many do you have now?
378. We had 50 people start yesterday. So wow. we're just under 400 people. It's been definitely an adjustment, a little terrifying, but also a lot of fun. I think managing through this growth and watching people sort of grow and succeed. And it's almost like every week, every month, people are pushed outside of their comfort zone, taking on new challenges, taking on new responsibilities. So it's been fun for sure.
So a few questions about how you've done this and what people can expect if they join Clearco. So what's the culture you've tried to build, or the culture you have?
I mean, it's very much a founder culture, right? You think about the mission of the company, you think about our customers. The people who thrive here are the people who believe in entrepreneurship, who have, almost everybody has an entrepreneurial story themselves. Maybe they started a club in high school. Maybe they came from an entrepreneurial family. Maybe they have ambitions of starting a company. And we've probably had, even in the last few years, 10 or 12 founders who have started, met a co-founder at Clearco, started a company, we've invested in them. And so that's, that ends up being a big part. We're actually looking at formalizing this program for people who, they know they want to be an entrepreneur, but, they may not have the idea, they may not have the skill set, they may not have the team yet to go do that. And so look, come work with us for a few years. As soon as you're ready to go and start something, if you do a great job here, we'll invest, we want to be your first backer. And so what that leads to is we try and provide a lot of autonomy. It certainly leads to some chaos, and we're trying to organize the chaos in a little better way, because you try and put 400 founders in a room, and it is sometimes like herding cats, but there's a lot of passion for what we do. It is it's certainly an intense place. There's an urgency to the mission that we all feel. But I think it can be incredibly rewarding for the right type of people who believe in what we're trying to do and have ambitions of changing the world for founders.
So I love it. You're looking for people that are entrepreneurial and want to support entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And how have you adjusted to, I guess, the hybrid, distributed life? Because I remember, if we go back to January 2020, you were just about to launch a beautiful new office in downtown Toronto across from Union Station. And then COVID hits. I know your team, like you said, you just hired half your executive team. They're all over. So what's your approach to physical locations or remote? Is it fully remote, distributed? How do you think about the team going forward?
Yeah. So we've, it's a double-edged sword for sure. We've been able to tap into unbelievable talent, and leadership talent, across the board. I think the mission, the types of people who are entrepreneurial, who want to support entrepreneurs, they are everywhere, and we've now been able to unlock some incredible talent globally. But the challenge, and frankly, the challenge for me has been adjusting to being a Zoom CEO, right, and a remote CEO. It's just I I feel like I'm playing with my hands tied behind my back because I feel like I'm much, maybe I think I'm much more compelling in person than I am over video, right? And I've always been able to sort of sense the room and figure out where people were anxious and where there was enthusiasm and excitement. And so, I think that's been a real challenge, is just maintaining that culture, that alignment, that energy. If you'd ever been to our office, you'd felt the sort of like energy of a bunch of entrepreneurs in one room, and it's just a sort of, pulsating energy around what we were trying to accomplish. So I think this is where we're trying to find the right hybrid. And as the world comes back, we're fortunate enough to have the resources to be able to bring the team together on a regular basis. So we will still, we'll still have our Toronto office. We will likely open up offices for people to work in sort of the major cities where we've got more than 5 or 10 people. So like in New York, San Francisco, London. But we won't require everybody to work in the office, anybody to work in the office if they don't want to every day. But we will bring everybody together on a regular basis, the entire company, and then each individual team, because I think there's, that face-to-face time and that relationship building is something that's hard to replace.
Wow. It sounds like a good experiment and sounds like fun. I wish I was single. I could just spend a couple of days in New York, a couple of days in San Francisco, then go to London.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just hired 50 people. You're up to 400 people. How many open roles do you have, and what are the positions you're looking to hire for?
I think we've got over 200 open roles. We're looking certainly on the engineering side, engineering, data science, product management, design, and then we're really hiring across the sales and the go-to-market organization, marketing, sales, partnerships, and business development. We've got some roles in finance as well. So look, I think if you don't see a role that fits your requirements, but you are passionate about the mission, you think you can help us, like, please apply. I think we have an open, like we have a, don't see a fit, apply. We just want to meet, fantastic people. And that's one of the things we've been pretty good at creating roles for great people who just want to come in and have an impact.
I love that. And what is the recruiting process like? So do you go to your site? Like, do they go to clear.co, careers, and apply? Is that, and then what's the process? Is it a couple of remote interviews? What can someone expect?
Yeah, we've tried to streamline the process quite a bit. So it's a couple of interviews. You'll talk to somebody on our talent team. They'll describe sort of the culture and do sort of an initial intake, and then it's a few meetings with the hiring managers and the hiring manager and the key people that you'll be working with. And we try and we really try and have a quick SLA on things. So we don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to drag them through a long interview process. If there's a good fit, then there's a great fit. And if not, we'll let you know. And there's some people that have interviewed, they haven't been a good fit right now. They've gotten some more experience, or our needs have changed. We've gone back to them and brought them on board. So some of our top performers, I think, applied like 2 or 3 times, and we eventually brought them in, and it was the perfect time for their career, and have had a incredible career trajectory since then. We used to do video interviews. I think we still require a video interview. I don't know if they've changed that process, but or you just submit a video, like a 1-minute video of just like you talking about yourself and why you're excited about the job. And I think that's still part of the process. I always enjoyed looking over this.
It sounds like you've been inspired a bit by YC. You can apply a couple of times. You're quick to make a decision. So I guess you're something else you may have taken from the Valley, because it feels very like applying for the YC batch. What else should someone know before joining Clearco?
I mean, look, it is an intense place, right? It is. It's not for everybody. We definitely have high expectations. We're trying to accomplish something that we're trying to create a category and create an industry and really change the status quo in a meaningful way. And and so we want to be totally respectful for it's not like the early days, the first 10 or 15 people where everybody would come to our apartment every day and we like lived and worked together and everything. But it's also not a 9 to 5 where you just sort of log off. And so I think that's one of the things that we just try and be pretty upfront about is we want this to be the place where you do some of the best work of your career, and it is going to be intense, but it's also going to be hopefully incredibly rewarding. And you look back on the body of work that you've done, and are proud of it, and it sets you up. I mean, we've again, the promotion path, the career acceleration path, as we're continuing to hire, the leadership potential and opportunities are pretty unique at this moment in time. And so we hope that the trade-off of probably a bit of intensity, but for the opportunity of really sort of accelerating your career in a meaningful way, is one that passionate people about entrepreneurship are happy to make.
Well, Andrew, thanks so much for your time. I hope that the company achieves its mission and that we have a lot more entrepreneurs in Canada and across the world. And if anyone has any questions, I'm sure they can just go to clear.co/careers to see the opportunities, or reach out on social media to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, so feel free to message me or connect with me, and I'm happy to direct you in the right directions too. But thanks so much for having me, and it's been awesome to be part of the TechTO community for so long.
Thanks, Andrew. You're someone that makes this community work. So have an amazing day, and I hope thank you for taking time out of the executive meetings.
Thanks.
Cool. Thanks. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to know what's going on in the Canadian ecosystem, and stay informed of new news, analysis, great opportunities and places to join, you need to subscribe to the TechTO newsletter. You can find it at techto.org/newsletter. Go there and sign up. If you have some time this week, we have 2 other great events coming up in the next 7 days. On July 9th, Friday, we have a Founders and Funding episode with founder of Relay Financial, Joseph West, and Bain Capital, who invested in late raised rounds, so Kerry Goldman. It's going to be interesting to talk about fintech, what's happening in Canada, what does a firm like Bain look for. It'll be very informative. You should join. And then finally, next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be having our monthly TechTO. We'll have firesides focused on the health tech sector. We'll have recently public Dialogue founder and CEO Sharif Habib come up and speak about health tech and being public and being based in Montreal. And then we'll have Andrew Arruda, CEO of Automate Medical, talk about the transition from legal tech to health tech and what they're trying to accomplish. Health tech has been an incredible story over the last 16 months, but I think it'll continue to be very important. So please join us to learn about that important sector. And finally, if you missed any of our previous episodes, head over to Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts to catch up on all the Rocketship podcasts. Thank you and have an amazing day.